Have you ever felt like your body is reacting to everything and none of it seems connected or really makes sense? Maybe your skin has been itchy or feels flushed. Maybe your heart races for no reason. You get dizzy, you feel exhausted, you have chronic fatigue, sensitivity to foods, chemicals, heat, the list could go on. Or maybe you simply don't recover the way you see other people do. Sometimes it feels like your body looked at a normal Tuesday and said, it's an emergency. Full disclosure, I am you. For me, one of the biggest clues was heat and sunlight, and I started reacting to anything above a UV index of 2. That was recently and definitely came on stronger when perimenopause hit the fan. So, this is my story, and one of the biggest missing pieces in understanding my own mysterious health challenges has been learning about mast cell activation syndrome, or MCAS. If some of that sounds familiar, stay with me for the next few minutes because what I'm going to share may help make sense of some of the symptoms that have felt completely disconnected for you. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of educated practitioners on MCAS related issues. People with these kinds of symptoms are generally given separate labels for each problem. One diagnosis for digestion and they're told it's IBS, Crohn's disease, or parasites. Another specialist focuses on anxiety and stress. Another may look at hormone dysregulation. Another focuses on skin issues. And yet we know the body is all connected. Everything works together, nothing is compartmentalized. So we often end up with a fragmented view of what is actually happening. We may understand individual symptoms, but we miss the bigger picture. So that's one reason I focus so heavily on nervous system oriented whole body approaches, and we will get back to that in a few minutes. First, we want to understand what are mast cells. Mast cells are immune cells that live throughout your entire body. Think of them as your body's security guards. Their job is to identify potential threats and help protect you. The challenge is that sometimes those security guards become overly reactive. Think of them like maybe the neighbor who means well, but you leave town for the weekend and they break a window to get into your house because they thought they smelled gas. Nothing was actually wrong, but now you have a broken window and a traumatized cat and a very enthusiastic neighbor who is convinced they save your life. That's a little bit like an overreactive mast cell. The problem isn't that the alarm exists, we need the alarm, but that we have become too sensitive. So what is a trigger? It's a stress. It can be almost anything. It can be food, chemicals, mold exposure, pollen, a past infection, chronic stress, even loud noises. And that's what makes it so confusing to narrow down and start to shift. Everyone's trigger pattern is different, which is why the detective work becomes so important. The trigger isn't always the cause. Sometimes it's simply because we already overflowed a bucket that was at its max. So why does this create so many symptoms? When mast cells become activated, they release chemicals designed to protect us. One of the most well-known is histamine, but mast cells release hundreds of signaling chemicals, including histamine, prostaglandins, cytokines, heparin, and many others. These chemicals can affect nearly every system in the body. That's why symptoms can seem so random. When symptoms move around the body, many people start wondering if they're imagining it. And this is often what happens when we go see a professional who's supposed to help us figure this out. We start to feel just a little bit crazy. They're not random. There is a pattern underneath. The body is not compartmentalized. So this is why we start with the nervous system connection. When I see a client who presents with chronic sinus issues, food sensitivities, headaches, digestive problems, I'm looking at inflammation. I'm looking at the nervous system. Many of my clients have already seen multiple specialists and collected a long list of diagnoses or potential diagnoses. Many people dealing with mast cell activation have nervous systems that are stuck in fight, flight, or freeze or survival mode. Over time, that can become a vicious cycle. The more stress creates more inflammation. More inflammation creates more symptoms. More symptoms create more stress, and the body never gets to fully recover. And this is one reason I often start with nervous system work, including cogno-movement work and other body-based approaches, because when the body starts to feel safe, it becomes less reactive. So how common is this? Current estimates suggest that as many as 1 in 5 people may have some degree of mast cell activation. That's 20% of us. Many researchers believe that number may be higher as we're seeing increased rates of long COVID, chronic fatigue, unexplained inflammatory conditions, and complex chronic illness. More and more people are realizing they aren't dealing with 10 unrelated problems. They may be dealing with one underlying pattern that's showing up in multiple ways. Hormones and mast cells. Women entering perimenopause may be especially vulnerable. One reason is that estrogen can directly activate mast cells. As estrogen levels rise and fall throughout the cycle sporadically, some women experience increases in inflammation, histamine reactions, headaches, sleep issues, skin symptoms. In other words, if you've ever found yourself crying because somebody loaded the dishwasher wrong while simultaneously breaking out in hives, there may be more going on. Hormones and mast cells are constantly having conversations behind the scenes. For many women, this is one reason symptoms seem to flare or suddenly get worse in their late 30s and 40s. What can we do about it? Well, it's true that we live in a world filled with lots of potential triggers. There are many things we can begin paying attention to that may help reduce the overall burden on the immune system. Air quality matters. So some of us live in states where air quality is a problem. Replace the filters, pay attention to mold exposure and environmental irritants. Personal care products really can make a difference too. Don't be loading up with a lot of toxic laundry detergents and skincare products. This can add to your allostatic stress burden. Nutrition matters. Real food with less processing is always going to make a difference in how the body can handle these triggers. Many people hear about low histamine diets. While they can be helpful for some people, they are rarely the answer. And in my own experience with working with clients, the goal is not simply removing foods. It's understanding why the body has become so reactive in the first place and re-educating that nervous system component. The most overlooked piece, and perhaps the most important, would be that nervous system regulation. Mast cells are incredibly reactive. In fact, in milliseconds, they have an opinion about your environment. So your ability to recover matters. This doesn't mean symptoms are in your head at all. Quite the opposite. Mast cells are paying attention to everything. For many of my clients, this looks like reducing triggers, supporting genetic weaknesses, improving recovery capacity, and developing nervous system literacy. The more the body feels safe, the less it has to stay on high alert. I hope this video was helpful, and maybe you'll start to go down your own MCAS rabbit hole and see what makes sense for you. But if you need help and you're looking for the genetic piece or the somatic body therapy piece and you just don't know how to get in there with your own nervous system literacy and remapping that, that is exactly what I do. And I would love to help guide your journey through this process. You can get in touch with me. My information is here. I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.